No? So the dodge tool is used similarly to a brush, right? So it has similar controls to a brush, and you would use it to lighten areas of an image. So when you essentially paint with the dodge tool, you would lighten wherever you paint. Yeah, that's straightforward enough. So you could lighten large areas of an image. Or adjust your brush, get it fine-tuned to exactly what you need, and lighten up smaller areas. Okay, that's your first tool. That's straightforward enough. You have your options there. You'll play around with it and see what you're capable of getting if you ever need it. Any questions with that? We're gonna go a little bit quick today. Everybody okay with the dodge tool? Basically, you use it to lighten an area on an image.
Yes, sir.
All right. Your burn tool. Can anybody tell me what the burn tool does?
Darken an image.
Darken.
Right. It doesn't darken an image exactly. You can darken the entire image, but because it's a brush, it darkens specific areas of an image. All right. So it's the opposite of the dodge.
Okay.
What about the sponge tool?
I guess it may be taken in the color, and you can move, like, let's say if you use this sponge tool on the white part, you can maybe move the white to another area, so maybe absorbing the color or something. So I guess.
Okay, so the description is it changes the color saturation. Whenever you see color saturation, you should always think of the intensity of the color, right? So basically what this sponge tool does is it desaturates your image or the area of your image that you're working with. So if you brush, if you notice the color is, the intensity of the color is decreasing. Yeah. You also can change it and saturate to increase the intensity of the colors with somewhere else. Right? So again, your options bar give you various options that you can configure. So you can either bring the saturation up or down, and you can adjust how it affects the image, the intensity of it on the image. So if you want to work a lot, sorry. So if you want it to flow a lot quicker, you will play around with that. Okay. Everybody understand those three tools here? The dodge, the burn, and spoil. Even though you don't quite understand,
Yes, sir.
you have to go play around with it, but you understand the use of it. It's basically like a brush that does a specific job of lightening, darkening, or changing the saturation of a specific area on your image. All right. Okay. The next tool we're going to look at is your clone stamp tool. Has anybody ever used the clone stamp tool? No?
So
Sorry, Alia, you were saying you?
no, I was saying no.
Okay, all right. Let me just give me 1 minute. Let me pull up a quick image. I'm just looking for something suitable that we can use for that example. There we go. Okay. Okay. So I was really hoping to find something that was not a stock image, but I don't want to keep you guys waiting too long. So I will use what I can find quickly. So you guys will get the idea. Anyway, so the clone stamp tool is used to clone pixels from one area of your image, right? And place it on another area of your image. Does that sound fantastic? No? Yes?
A little.
A little. All right. Basically, it allows you to clone parts of your image for reconstruction. Let me just give you a quick example of what we can do with that. So a lot of times you have images like this, but the dog might be a photo bomber or something in your image that takes away from the main elements and you don't want it visible. So you want to remove that person you're no longer friends with that was in the background of that picture, or move that person that just accidentally walked by as you were taking your picture, or whatever the case might be, right? Just an example. The clone stamp would come in handy because it would allow you to clone parts of your image to essentially rebuild the areas that you consider to be corrupted. So in that case, I've used the clone stamp to effectively remove the dog from the image.
Like a,
Excuse me?
it look like a destructive feature. I don't know.
It looking
Oh, you did.
destructive, right? Well, remember, once we're talking about editing pixels, we're talking destructive editing. So yes, you are absolutely right. There is no other way to do it, which is why, if you notice, what I did was I duplicated my background layer. So the layer that I am destroying is not my original layer, right? So that is a technique that you can use if you ever need to use a destructive method, because you cannot clone stamp non-destructively. All right, I'll show you a few other techniques that you can use to save your data, such as creating a snapshot, but you cannot clone stamp non-destructively, just like you cannot paint non-destructively. All right, if you have to use the brush, if you have to use the sponge, the dodge, the burn tool, right, or the clone stamp, all of those are going to be destructive edits. But how else are you going to achieve this? Now, the reason you don't want it to be, the reason you want to still duplicate your original layer is to allow you a sense of, well, a backup, so to speak, right? So in the event you happen to make an accident, right? Like I just did, sorry. All right, oh, wrong tool, sorry. So in the event you accidentally made an error, right? And you didn't realize it until 100 steps down the road, you could actually come back to your original image and start again if that was what was required. Yeah. So you're absolutely right. While we're on that, let me just show you one other thing. You do have a history panel, right? And in your history panel, it logs every step that you take for up to a certain number of steps, which you can configure from your preferences, right? So I can go back actually to as many steps as I need. I can even go back to the moment I duplicated my layer to get my original layer back. But what will happen is, based on the amount of memory that you have and the amount of steps that you've assigned to log, right? Then as you perform more steps on your document, the old steps will be overwritten as the new steps get pushed in. So the steps are going to be pushed up and out of your ability to access them. Does everybody understand that? Yes?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Another thing you can do is to create a snapshot. So from your history panel, if you know you're really happy with your document like this, you can create a snapshot by clicking on this create a snapshot button, right? Create new snapshot. And you can actually come back to that state at any point in time. So let me just give you an example. So I just created a snapshot. If I were to go ahead now and perform, sorry, I just add a new panel. So let me put it where it's supposed to be. All right. If I go and make edits, let's do an obvious one. Let's paint over it black, right? And I do that so many times that I cannot go back, right? I can always jump back to my snapshot at any point in time. And I can create multiple snapshots. So you can create snapshots as you progress along your design so that you do not lose your work as you progress. Okay?
So, sir, the snapshots are editable?
The snapshots are not editable. The snapshots represent states that your document will be in. So if you go to a snapshot state, let me just show you. Let me delete this one. So I have a snapshot here, and then I am going to make some changes to my layer. And then I'm going to create another snapshot. So the snapshot represents states that you can quickly jump to. Yes, you can edit them, but the thing is you editing from that point. So if I edit from this point, I continue working there, that becomes my main document. Now I can always go back to that point or to that point or to the bottom of my edits. But it's not really editing the snapshot. The snapshot is just a state that the image takes at a particular point that you can revert to. If you edit it, it becomes the new document, the document that you're actively working with. Is that understood?
Yes, sir.
All right. So, but the person that realized very smartly and rightly so that that would have been a destructive edit, you're absolutely right. And in that case, do two things. One, duplicate your, well, I recommend this about I do, which is the simplest method. Duplicate your, if you're working for a document like this, on the document itself, make a copy of your layer, and you can make the other one invisible if you like. All right, and you work with a copy, you can always revert back to it. Second option, which is probably the more Photoshop friendly option, is to take a snapshot, right? Or you can actually create a new document from the file at any point in time. And so you have a backup of it at that state, right? And you would do that with this button. So you click here and you have a separate document. So now we have a separate file itself, right, of the document at that state. Notice now we have it open twice. And then you could save that separately. All right, so back to the clone stamp tool. Do you guys understand the value of the clone stamp tool, how it works? So to review, in use of the clone stamp tool, I would press Alt to select an area that I want to clone from. So this patch of sand here looks pretty nice. I want to put this patch of sand over here, right? Which will effectively cover up the dog to look like there's no dog there. So to take a sample, I press the Alt key on my keyboard, notice my cursor changes, and I make a single click. With that, I have that clone sample. So notice a preview of the pixels in that area that has been cloned is actually being shown to me. And I can actually put that down anywhere. It doesn't have to be in the place where it belongs. You can put it down very, very wrongly, right? And with that, you can achieve other artifacts. Like, look at this. I've actually effectively cloned the dog up in the sky and, well, bits of the sand as well, over the man's head. That's probably not ideal, but it's something that you're capable of using the clone stamp tool. Does anybody have any questions at this point?
So what? Okay, so like, what would be an alternative to like put the soil,
What would
like
be the
put
what?
the sun. That would be an alternative, right?
Uh-huh.
Put the soil like over the door, like to remove the door. And like add this sun. Yeah, like constructive way.
In a constructive, I just tell you that an edit like that is not constructive at all. There is no constructive way to do it. It's going to be destructive because you're going to be editing pixels. So there are times when you can use non-destructive methods in designing, and I did spend quite a few classes going through that with you guys. But then there are times when your methods are going to be destructive. Let me give you another example, perhaps a more practical example. Hopefully that makes you understand it a little bit better. And I'm looking for something suitable. All right, there we go. We find something different. So, a lot of us have, maybe not necessarily in our possession, but somewhere in our homes or somewhere we can access a lot of old photo albums or old photos, or we may have relatives that have them, and those photos look like this. Yeah. Everybody, has anybody seen a photo like that?
Yes.
Right. So this is pretty interesting. I can actually clone from the previous document. I was not aware of that. So I learned something new here today. Anyway. So the probably most likely instance, I did give you a few instances like photo bombers and so on, but the more professional instance where you might notice or you might need to use the clone stamp tool is in photo repair, right? So this is a more practical example. In a case like that, we have an obviously damaged photo that probably means a lot to maybe her grandchildren at this point, right? And they probably want to have a slideshow at her funeral or at her 90th birthday party, and they want to include photos from her baby all the way up to her 90th birthday, and that's among the photos that they can get, and they come to you to do a repair, right? Again, all of your edits are going to be destructive, but that doesn't mean what you're doing is destroying the photo. On a well-composed, perfectly good photo, you don't want to edit pixel by pixel. But in the case of an image like this, where the pixels are obviously so badly damaged that you could do better with your hands, your edits actually are going to be considered constructive. So would you consider what I'm doing right now to be destructive to the photo? No matter how speaking it is, or would you consider it to be? Everybody seeing what's going on?
Yeah.
Let me know if you're understanding or not quite understanding what we're trying to do here. Doing the easy areas first. So essentially, what I'm doing is rebuilding the damaged parts of the damaged parts of the photo, right? With pixels that look like they could fit there. They don't actually fit there. And you have to be careful because when you use the clone stamp, one of the other artifacts that you can create if you don't do it right, is the creation of patterns. Let me just see if I can do that for you. So if you don't take your samples properly, right? Here. And we attempt to fix up her hair here. And we keep going. And we keep going. You guys see what's occurring here? You can see a very obvious pattern forming, right? So those are some of the things that the clone stamp can do, which are not very pretty and you want to be careful of. So it's a tool that requires practice. It's probably the most manually intensive image editing tool, right? And as usual, you know, I like to give you guys homework. Your homework for me is focused on the clone stamp tool today. Yeah. Everybody ready for your homework?
Yes.
All right. So for homework, I want you to go on Google. Normally, I would actually have a photo already selected and I would just assign it to you, but I'm gonna do it a little bit different this time. And I will actually let you choose what photo you want to work with, right? So I want you to go on Google, search for damaged photo or anything of that sort, right? And I want you to find, let me just show you what my search results look like. So my search results look like this. I just quickly searched for damaged photo, right? And I had a number of options. I want you to select any damaged photo. Obviously, you might want to select one like that until you're quite ready for it, right? But select something a bit more suitable. Any of the first ones, the first three could work, first four, that one couldn't work, right? And I want you to attempt to repair using only the clone stamp. I'm going to show you some easier tools on the second part of our class. But for your homework, I want you to use only the clone stamp. And I want you to put together a before and after for me like this. So it doesn't have to be perfect, but the best you can. As you can see here, that was a before and an after image where they did a reconstruction on it. I'm not asking you to get something of that complexity, right? But something like this, I want you to do a before and after for me. This is very interesting. Let me pull that one up to give you a quick example and a quick thought exercise. So let's say you choose to do this for homework, right? Most of it is really on inconsequential parts of your document. Sorry. So it gives you quite a bit of area to practice, right? To practice and actually get your stamping skills down, all right? But the few areas on the face would pose a pretty serious challenge. But let me give you a quick scenario on restriction. We have two parts here, his ears and his eyebrow, which you might be tempted to leave out or leave damaged because you might say it's too difficult, all right? But what is one way that you can think of that we can approach that to make our life simpler? There are a number of answers to that. And the first one is the size and shape of your brush, right? So when you're doing that, don't restrict yourself to a big round brush. You can feel free to adjust the size and shape of your brush as necessary. Also, you might need to play around with the opacity. For now, you can leave it at 100 as you begin. But as you go along, experiment with decreasing the opacity a bit as you stamp, right? Because sometimes you may not want to put 100% opacity of the pixels in a particular area. Sometimes you may. So as usual, with all of the other tools, you need to play around with the options to find which options and which settings for those tools work best for you, right? Or for your scenario. Another thing that you can consider is human beings are, for the most part, symmetrical, right? And by symmetrical, I mean, for the most part, sorry, they look pretty even on their left and right. Yes? Not everybody, obviously. But if you have, for instance, a damaged eye or a damaged eyebrow, just to give you a quick example, your homework, I actually asked you to use only the clone stamp tool. However, I will not be opposed to you using your selection tools and multiple layers. What's wrong in this picture?
It needs to be mirrored.
It needs to be mirrored. How do we mirror a layer?
You have to go and transform and then rotate
Edit, transform,
vertical.
Vertical?
Vertical, horizontal.
Horizontal is mirror image. Yeah. So well, vertical will be mirror image, but on the vertical axis. So yeah. You can see the tones are different here, but again, you have a number of different tools. I'm not going to restrict you. You have adjustments, brightness, contrast. You can drop the brightness. You have your dodge and burn tools. In a case like that, I would also not be opposed to using a tool like the eraser. So you see what a hard eraser does, right? But if I drop the hardness of the eraser, I can erase to the point where you cannot tell where my erasing starts and where my erasing stopped. So all that, I'm giving you a number of different techniques that you can use in the repairing of your image. I just don't want you to use any other image repair tool other than the clone stamp. Okay, everybody get the homework?
Yeah.
All right, and then we can just go burn. Sorry. I just randomly go in real quick. I expect you to take your time and get it done to the best of your ability, right? But there we go. There's my fast fix up of his eye and eyebrow with a little bit of extra white on the side. Yeah, so prefix, mine a little higher. But so choose an image of your own, right? I'm not going to tell you what image to use, and just get me a restored image. I want to see the before and after using only the clone stamp tool. Cool?
Yes, sir.
All right, we're gonna stop here. We're gonna take a quick break, and then when we come back in, I'm going to show you all of the rest of the wonderful tools that will make your image editing life so easy that you will probably never use the clone stamp after that homework today. All right, so
Yes,
gonna take a break right here, and I will see you guys back in about 10 minutes. By the way, all of you who are here right now, could you please, while during the break, I will take the attendance, send your name in the group chat so I can mark you down as present. So as soon as we leave from here, while you're on your break, just send your name so I can take the attendance. All right, guys, you have a chance to do that in the beginning. So I'll see you in about 10 minutes.